Yeah, and again, everything we were just saying about WWE and so much of the missteps and problems that they've been having, it's all made that much weirder when you see such a good product in NXT, and it's a WWE product. It's on WWE Network. So, on one hand, you wonder why they're getting it so wrong, and then you see them getting it so right. Getting right under the same banner, the same corporate umbrella.
The only thing I can hope for is I'm a hockey fan, and I'm in Buffalo, New York, so I'm a big fan of the Buffalo Sabres. And the Sabres are the worst team in the NHL right now, but they've got some great developmental prospects, and they're hoping to get either that first or second round draft pick this year. So you can always look at the current product and say, okay, it's not that good, it's pretty bad, but things look really bright for the near future. So that's maybe that's what NXT will be poised to be, and really kind of jumpstart WWE.
Yeah, but it's got less to do with the age of these guys and whether they graduate out of there and into the main roster, and it's got more to do, I think, with leadership and management, and what it'll take for WWE to look more like NXT is Triple H ostensibly running WWE and Vince McMahon no longer being in power, and who knows? I mean, honestly, it could be another 20 years. Just who knows? And, I even wonder about what kind of dynamic that creates in that family and any tensions where I think for the first time in a long time you've got, I mean, there's always been some, but now I think it's kind of reaching a critical mass of people questioning Vince McMahon, wondering if he's gotten too old for this, if he's out of touch. You just hear that so much. And the better that NXT does, the more you hear that. And maybe it creates some defensiveness from Vince McMahon, where you see things. I mean, I just think this is now a few months ago to Charlotte debuting on WWE Raw and getting squashed, whatever it was, like a minute or 2 minutes, and it almost felt like an act of defiance, sticking it to NXT, maybe sticking it to Triple H. That kind of thing. And if that's what's going on, I'm not that optimistic. I mean, I don't know that Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens or any of those guys comes in and almost out of spite, they get mistreated in the main roster.
That is a good point, and that's one of the things about WWE that's such a weird thing. Now, WWE is a really weird business in that it was a wrestling company that became this global phenomenon. It's a business unlike any other business that's ever really existed. No other wrestling company became this multimedia empire like WWE has. But its roots are still back in the wrestling business, which, is one step removed from the carnival circuit, back in the day. So you have a mentality, this old school mentality where you're playing politics, you're squashing people, you're the old saying, you always humiliate somebody in their hometown, like Jim Ross would always be humiliated in Oklahoma and whatever, just little things like that, little like games of one-upsmanship and ribs that they play on each other that you don't find in like the corporate world. Like that's not, those are holdovers from your carny past. But in as much as WWE tries to distance itself from that, McMahon still does all of those hokey little like corny things that do show him as being a little out of touch. Like you said, just, hey, it makes no sense for business, but let's stick it to Charlotte and NXT by squashing her out and not putting her back on the main roster for a few months. And it's pointless, it's counterproductive, but it happens all the time there.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen for years and years WWE hold against a lot of indie workers that they did achieve success outside WWE. And I'm almost wondering if they'll do it, in-house. I mean, again, why haven't they called Sami Zayn up or guys like that? And I can't help but wonder if the louder the cheers get for them in NXT, the more popular they get, the more, not that they get in hot water, but I think there's at least a part of that Vince McMahon might resent. And again, it's part of that wanting to take ownership of all things wrestling or sports entertainment, and to see anybody have success, the thought, and I think it's something that's shared by Stephanie McMahon, which makes an even more interesting dynamic between Stephanie and Triple H. But to see, again, fans approving of something that is not WWE, that is not Vince McMahon's vision and his way, I think creates some level of uncomfortability. Is that right?
Yep.
Something like that. Anyway, we mentioned TNA and again, them being at least at one time the number 2, and I think it's a really good point you bring. And we're about a month into their run now on Destination America, and I think the biggest headline is how quiet it's been. I mean, I really feel like nobody is talking about TNA.
Yeah, it is. And then the other biggest headline, and this is just kind of coming in.
Yes.
It's earlier today, Samoa Joe tweeting that he's leaving TNA. Still waiting for other information on that, but that's out there. It certainly wouldn't be a surprise if it's true, and he is leaving TNA because Lord knows he's been so underutilized. When he got there in 2005, I believe, he was poised to be, the next big thing. I mean, the expectations for Samoa Joe were massive,
yes.
And now the company's basically drained him. I mean, Samoa Joe is just. He's a shell of what he could have been. He never achieved any of the things that people were predicting. He had some great matches against Styles and Daniels and Angle.
Kurt Angle, yep.
He'll never be that superstar again. I don't think.
Yeah.
But the other good thing is I know that some good friends of mine, Cherry Bomb and Pepper Parks, were at the most recent tapings, which is fantastic for them. I'm really hoping that things work out for people like them. That are now getting a look at by TNA, and TNA is now trying to bring in fresh faces and new talent. Drew Galloway they brought in, but like you said, the public perception of the company, no one's talking about it. It's hard to follow. I mean, you're seeing the tapings. They're taping all these things at one time, 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time, and you kind of lose track of what's actually happening, or. Oh, I know that this happened at the tapings, but that still doesn't air for another month, and it's just, it's confusing.
Yeah, it's certainly not what it was a year or 2 years ago. The business model has clearly changed, and again, some of what you're talking about, some of these people being given a look. I think what TNA has essentially become is kind of a televised indie, and, people would talk about if somebody would leave WWE, maybe he can go and get a contract in TNA, as if it's comparable. And I think now more than ever, TNA is just, a single payday for these guys or girls, among all their other paydays. I mean, I don't know if it's a job or a career like it once was. I don't think people will identify themselves as TNA wrestlers because, again, what they're doing is so infrequent. It's so sporadic. I mean, they tape a couple nights, months apart sometimes. Yeah. It's very low budget now, and in some ways, it's better than it's been. And some of the things they've done have been improvements. But it just does not feel major league at all. And part of it, I think, is what you touched on. It's NXT, but it's not only NXT. Ring of Honor is still around, and they're growing their syndication base. Lucha Underground, which I mentioned before, has got about the same production values of TNA, maybe a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I think among a certain kind of fan has better buzz going on right now, and they have. They have a fresh look and kind of their own identity. I think a lot of what they're doing is great. I mean, I think TNA could probably learn from Lucha Underground more than almost anything else. And then you've got New Japan on Access TV, and just everything that's on WWE Network. So for the first time in a while, if you're not into WWE product, you've got a lot of options, and maybe that really takes away something that TNA had was being the alternative. Now there's lots of alternatives. They're just one of them. And for a lot of fans, you can't even get TNA anymore. Destination America doesn't have nearly the penetration that Spike did. So, I wrote about it. I forget when. I think it was my year-end memory or something. No, I think it was my PWI 500 take, and I wondered about a year ahead, and I didn't want to predict the doom of TNA because I thought they might be around, but I thought then they may be something very, very different than what they were last year, and it's looking that way. I mean, if we put together our PWI 500 today, would a TNA guy be in the top 10? I don't know if a TNA guy would be in the top 20.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd really have to. I mean, maybe Bobby Roode. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, and it's not to say that there aren't great, terrific workers there. It doesn't feel like a major promotion anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree.
Anyhow, I wanted to give plenty of time for my interview with Mikey Whipwreck, who's going to be joining us for a little bit. Dan, you've got to run out.
Jump out on that, but do let Mikey know. Years ago, probably 97, 98, maybe not, probably 98 or so, I interviewed Mikey Whipwreck and the Sinister Minister in ECW at the Flickinger Center here in Buffalo, and in the middle of the interview, they set fire to my notebook. So let Mikey know that he still owes me a notebook.
That's it. I'm canceling the interview.
Yeah, just let him know. Let him know that I'm not even going to interview him. I'm going to jump off this in protest until I get.
That's why you're leaving.
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's not that I have dinner plans with my wife. It's because of the notebook. So,
all right, Dan. Thanks so much. We'll be back together next week. Now tune in for me and Mikey.
All right.
All right, I'm joined now by former ECW heavyweight champion, and now he is one of the mainstays of NYWC, New York Wrestling Connection, here in my backyard, Long Island, New York. Mikey Whipwreck, how are you?
What's going on, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, you got a big show coming up, right?
That's a good thing.
We get a big show coming up, right? Psycho Circus every February. It's NYWC's biggest show of the year. You are going to play a big role this year, as you have many years in the past. Why don't you talk a bit about NYWC and Psycho Circus?
Yeah, February 28th, Deer Park, New York. NYWCWrestling.com for all the info. Yeah, Psycho Circus, it's one of those, I came up with this thing like a dream in like 1998 or 99, something like that. And it's one of those crazy matches, it's like half a ring's a cage, half the ring is wrapped in barbed wire. It's like a War Games type of format. Two guys start every 2 minutes. Some other guys come out. So it's going to be traditionally pretty barbaric and pretty, I hate to use the word hardcore, but it's usually pretty interesting and pretty, if you're into the blood and the guts of the carnage, that's for you. We also have Masters of the Mat match with Drew Gulak, Tony Nese, and Jimmy Papadon. So that's, if you like the wrestling aspect of things, that's something really cool. And it's like I think there's a 3-way tag team match. Team Tremendous, Dan Barry and Bill Carr against Milk Chocolate against the Juicy Product. So that's gonna be a pretty good match too. And I think these like a battle royal every year, so it's something for everything. I think there's a women's match. So yeah, it'll be pretty cool.
As you said, I know the Psycho Circus match can get pretty hardcore, pretty bloody, that kind of thing. But you've got some real technicians. I know Papadon for a long time. I think we've covered him pretty extensively in the pages of PWI, so I think a lot of our readers are a fan of his work. So you go from kind of one extreme to the other in terms of the hardcore on one side and the real kind of technical showmanship on the other. And you're in the Psycho Circus match, right?
Yeah, of course.
So as long as you've been doing it, I mean, can you still get up for something like that? I mean, going in there knowing that you're about to feel some real pain, or after all these years, do you not even feel it anymore?
Oh, I feel it. I feel it before I move to the curtain. I feel it.
Yeah,
but it's when they say it about Taker too, and on a much smaller scale, like myself, they call me like Yoda. There are days I get there and I can barely move. But the music hits, time to go to the ring. You gotta something just clicks in the brain. The adrenaline kicks in, the endorphins kick in, and the body starts to feel good for a little while.
Yeah.
So some of the bumps hurt a little more than they used to. I took a tackle bump last month, and man, it felt like I got hit by a bus, like on a damn tackle. But then I'll take like a sidewalk slam, something big off the top rope, and it's fine. So it's, almost the bigger, the crazier the bump, the better I am.
I know you've been involved a lot on the training side at NYWC. What gives you more fulfillment these days? Is it still working a match and the rush of a live crowd and that kind of thing? Or do you get more fulfillment from seeing some of the guys you help train go out there and perform?
More fulfillment, definitely. Watching the guys go out there.
Yeah.
They're all, I tell them all, when they come in, I said, you're all like my kids.
Mm-hmm. I
said, I'm going to hate you at points. I'm going to love you at points. You're going to make me crazy. You're going to hate me. It's going to be good. But when it's all said and done, if you make it to the point where you're working shows, you definitely have my respect. And just watching them go out there and all the hard work they put into it and watching it pay off, it's just great. So you say, me to WWF, like Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. It's good to see them. And hey, they're on TV. That's pretty cool. But even some of the guys like Tony Nese, who's never really, he run in TNA.
Yep.
But just watching him on the Indies, like Evolve and stuff like that, and him going out to PWG. I mean, for me, that's like, that makes me happier than he's on WWE or TNA, because I know he really loves it and he's out there really performing because he enjoys it, and that's makes me happy.
Yeah,
plus it doesn't hurt me watching them.
Right. Again, I've been watching NYWC for years. There's a lot of indies here in the New York area, but for my money, I always say NYWC is the best of those, and really, I think a notch above in terms of. I think it's a real first-rate product. You guys have a great space there in Deer Park, and the list of guys that have come out of there, and people always, as you said, talk about the guys who went to WWE, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, Matt Stryker came through there. Who else might I think? Mike Mondo, some others.
Yeah, Trent Beretta or Amazing Red came through. I trained Jay Lethal, so it's been a lot. And those are just guys you've heard of. Then you have like Tony Nese and like Papadon who finished training with me, and then like Apollyon is out there. And Dan Barry came through there, and all these guys that, the smart people might know, but the mass population won't know who they are. But we put out a lot of good guys.
What's different what's different about training in NYWC? Is it something unique about your training or coaching style?
I just think it's the way we start them in the beginning, and all these guys come in and they get the basics down. When we train them, Mike Mondo trains guys, Blake Morris, Stockade, and these guys doing most of the training now. I'll come on now, like oversee, on things and tweak things. But, they do, like Mike Mondo, he learned in OVW. He started with NYWC, but then he went out and really mastered it in OVW, and he would actually teach the classes there. So it's like these guys that came through me, we just start at the beginning, we take our time, and we progress you naturally. We don't have you doing crazy stuff 2 days in, 3 days in. I think it's like building a house. You have to have a good, solid foundation.
Yeah.
You need to have the basics, especially now with the way wrestling is. It's very athletically, it's less gimmicky now, and it's more athletics and more basics and footwork